And welcome everybody to another NPCs Weekly News Roundup for the week of November 13th, 2020. Happy Friday the 13th, everybody. In this week's news, we have Twitch and more of the DMCA chaos still hitting all these different streamers. We also have Xbox Series X issues day one. We also have PlayStation issues, specifically talking about how long it's going to be to transition to full PlayStation 5 away from PlayStation 4. And of course, EA slapped with another lawsuit. Let me go ahead and roll our intro. We're going to kick things off for you. And of course, to all of you, happy Friday. Again, welcome to the News Roundup. Kyle, via Discord, welcome, sir. Hello.
What's up?
Man, it's been a week of news. Did we even do the news last week?
I don't even remember at this point.
It seems like the days are running together, and of course, it's Friday the 13th. I think Jason Voorhees might cut us a break here and not actually go and kill us. I think he might actually give us a hug for everything we've gone through in 2020, so fantastic, huh?
Yeah.
But
yeah, I could only hope so at this point.
But of course, everybody, we got a great lineup of stories here to talk about, stuff that you should really be paying attention to, especially as it relates to video games. So let's just kick it right off here with our first story. And this one comes to us from Kotaku. Twitch apologizes, but DMCA fiasco continues with punishments for in-game sounds and deleted clips. Twitch's past 3 weeks have been bleak, to say the least. Late last month, the company abruptly purged thousands of streamers' videos and advised them to delete all remaining clips in advance of a massive music industry DMCA crackdown. One it had known about for months, but failed to adequately warn streamers about until it developed rudimentary tools to aid them in deleting their entire histories. Today, Twitch published a lengthy apology letter, but it did little to quell fury that once again is at a boiling point due to copyright claims and muted VODs stemming from in-game sound effects and clips that streamers have already deleted. Twitch's apology summed up what's happened so far and firmed up a number of details, including the fact that Twitch began receiving thousands of DMCA notifications per week in May of this year, having only received 50 or so per year total in previous years. Before getting to the heart of the matter, you're rightly upset that the only option we provide was a mass deletion tool for clips, and that we only gave you 3 days notice to use this tool. The company wrote, "We could have developed, more sophisticated user-friendly tools a while ago. That we didn't is on us, and we could have provided creators with a longer time period to address their VOD and clip libraries. That was a miss as well. We're truly sorry for these mistakes and will do better." Twitch also committed to developing additional tools that will hopefully grant streamers more granular control over their recorded content, audio, and reviewing / contesting copyright claims, but it did not provide a release date for those much-needed features. It went on to try and explain why it doesn't just obtain music licensing rights like Facebook has for its live streaming platform. But while it said those solutions won't work for Twitch in particular, it stopped short of explaining exactly why. The current constructs for licenses that the record labels have with the other services, which typically take a cut of revenue from creators for payment to record labels, makes less sense for Twitch. The company wrote, "The vast majority of our creators don't have recorded music as a part of their streams, and the revenue implications to creators of such a deal are substantial. It's unclear why Twitch and Amazon, one of the biggest companies in human history, could not simply make up the revenue deficit instead of letting it fall on the backs of streamers." Twitch went on to say, however, that it's open-minded to new structures that could work for Twitch's unique service, but we must be clear that they may take some time to materialize or may never happen at all. It's just more Twitch bullshit again, Kyle. It's the reason why we're not streaming on Twitch right now is because I don't know if the intro is going to get flagged for something and we're going to end up having some sort of weird permaban that's going to get hit, even with the warnings. We're not partnered, we're not affiliate, we're nothing on Twitch, so we only have clips going so far back anyway. But why risk it? YouTube is taking care of us. Facebook hasn't been a problem either, and we haven't had any complaints on the news part itself. But it seems like Twitch really just doesn't get it. Twitch just never figured it out, and people suffered.
Yeah, really, really hard, actually. Further down in the article, it actually does say that one person got actually muted during the or auto muted during broadcasting uh, because they had a wind gust sound from World of Warcraft play.
Wow. Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
that. I saw that one specifically because apparently there's that, and then there was another streamer that apparently had music from. Let me see if it was actually listed here. There was a piece of music that was actually in-game music for a video game, but a metal band had actually sampled some of that music into their own, and so the copyright system
Hmm.
actually flagged it, which is stupid. First and
That's
foremost, that's dumb.
insane.
Yeah, it's there. Just doesn't seem. It just seems like the ball was dropped here, and at least YouTube gives enough time to argue and to at least sort out what needs to happen to make sure everything can be done properly. Whether you're re-uploading your videos, whether you're just muted in general, or even so, you might just lose the revenue if you're something that has the ability to, you have the ability to earn money based on advertising. You might just lose that part of it. So there are a couple things that can happen, but it's like exactly as the article said, exactly as they said at Kotaku, is why did Amazon and Twitch take so long if they've been getting stuff since May to hit everybody in October?
Yeah.
Like, did they?
I
It's bizarre.
I don't know. It really kind of limits the content creators, you would think, and it would I would honestly think make people question on if they actually wanted to continue on Twitch because of simple things could get them banned, just like little audio clips.
Yeah, especially in like the grand scheme of those who play like Grand Theft Auto. The radio stations there, you're going to get hit really quick.
Yeah.
Um, I think Tony Hawk Pro Skater
And
1 and 2, if anybody's streaming, that's a big one too.
well, and you know, Grand Theft Auto's been out for years, and there are still lots and lots of people that stream it, and they have lots and lots of followers, that still follow them for watching the same game. So I mean, for them to get hit, it would not only affect the creator, but I mean, it could in a sense affect the audience too if that's kind of their daily fix, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. That
But
there, at least fortunately, there are different options available out there. You've got to at least be able to get music that you can have a license to, so that way you can at least have something on your stream,
yeah.
whether it's for you, whether it's for the people you're playing with, especially to fill that gap in those games where the music is so important. Grand Theft Auto. Again, I go to Tony Hawk Pro Skater, but nobody's really streaming that. To be able to at least fill that gap as such. So you've got, at least for anybody listening who does stream on Twitch, a couple of the options. One I've used in the past is 99 Lives. They've changed their licensing model just a little bit since I originally started using their music, but they're definitely an option. You've also got a more recent one called Pretzel Rocks, which is a really good one to use too. I believe they have a free version of it, and then I believe there's a paid version that kind of opens up the library. And then lastly, there's there's sirens going all over the place behind me. And then there's Monster Cat as well too, which is a well-known one and actually has some integrations directly with Twitch. So take a look at those platforms. Make sure you're taking a look at the licensing rights as well too. But also, if you go and find music that you want to play, especially if it's from maybe an up-and-coming musician, maybe it's someone that you know, make sure to get your ducks in a row and get licensing rights, or at least approval from them, and find out exactly how you want it attributed to them. So for the podcast, we use an artist named J+1, and for their music, I just sent the artist a message. I was like, hey, I would like to be able to use this while I'm streaming and doing podcasting. Is that cool? And so they probably got a lot of messages on it, and they just ultimately sent back a bulk message to everybody who subscribed to their music, said, yes, you're perfectly fine to use this music. Just make sure to give the link back here to where this music is being sold. So that's what we do in the podcast. And that's just the way we've, at least in some way, legally covered ourselves. But no, make sure you're taking the steps to protect yourself. Make sure that you are doing the right thing there, because if you are a content creator, especially one of these that is starting to get up there and starting to work your way through, and you haven't done the research on this, you're setting yourself up for a world of hurt. So you really need to keep an eye on yourself.
Most definitely.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and move in here to our next story on the list. And this one comes to us from VG247. And this is talking about the PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5 transition. And this one, oh, God, this is going to be a frustrating one, especially for those who just got the, or at least might be a little bit of a, actually, not even frustrating. I think it's probably going to be more just annoying that it's going to probably take as long. But Kyle, talk to us about this one here from VG247. What's going on with the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5?
Sony reckons PS4 to PS5 transition will take about 3 years. Despite Sony's proclaimed belief in generations that platform holders understand that cross-gen games will continue to be the norm for a while, Sony expects to continue arriving for PS4 alongside PS5. This transition This transition, according to head of platform planning Hideki Nishino, will last about 3 years. Speaking to AV Watch in a wide-ranging interview, Nishino explained that it will be a couple of years before we see games made exclusively for PS5. The current assumption is that the transition from PS4 to PS5 will take about 3 years, Nishino told the site. Uh, in meantime, how can I keep buying games on PS4? Can the games be purchased and played on PS5? That's important. Nishino added that he understands why developers would want to continue putting out games for last-gen consoles, but that will eventually change when the install base for PS5 grows. After a certain period of time, we asked developers to develop on the premise of the cross-generation of PS4 and PS5. Of course, we also need to improve the library to make it easier. Beyond that, there's also the sense of development teams will take a little while to start making proper use of the PS5's tech, such as advanced SSD and more powerful CPU and GPU. In fact, it may not be easy to develop PS5 specific development for day one. For the time being, development for PS4 is also necessary, he added. It's also not PS4, or it's not a PlayStation unless you prepare a system that developers can use up to over several years. So I think there's a great potential in the future.
Well, that's interesting.
That seems to be a lot longer than what I had heard was the initial projection, because I thought the initial projection for the continuation of the PS4 was supposed to be roughly 2 years. That probably going to be falling short of the 2 years, but 3 years is an awful long time. That's
Yeah.
almost like them doing a PS2 or trying to do a PS2.
Well, see, what's interesting to me is that it's not like the architecture necessarily changed as much. It went to more emphasis, of course, on solid state storage, and then ultimately, of course, it went to an upgrade in the almost the exact same type of chipset as what the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Pro already have. You know, it's just the next logical thing. It's just like a PC. It's like I know that I can play a game on my computer right now, and that if I go change out the processor and the graphics card to something better, that game should still run. Hopefully, it should run okay. At least more modern titles will. It's just
Right.
bizarre that they're saying it's going to take 3 years to transition when I wonder if they shot themselves in the foot with the backwards compatibility dilemma that they're in right now. Because like Microsoft doesn't have that issue. You know, they have a pretty good library for backwards compatibility as it relates to the Series X and S. They have,
Right.
you know, the fact that all of your accessories work with it as well too, and that you're jumping into a dashboard and environment that's basically one for one with what you've already been growing up with the Xbox One family. So
Right.
it just seems like they shot themselves in the foot saying it's going to take 3 years to transition. I just it seems like it should have been almost a pretty quick one, in my opinion, for at least the developers to get on board with. But maybe developing for the PS5 is just that much harder.
Well, if it's that much harder, that makes me wonder, what kind of architecture is it that they have to develop for initially, and then they have to change it to go backwards or forwards, for that matter, to the different architecture. Because you think about, like, they did that with PS3. It had that completely different architecture, made it really hard to develop for. Um, so I don't know. I feel like what Xbox has done is they've stayed very similar on their architecture for their entire life.
Mm-hmm.
Even as far as, like, you go back to the original Xbox, and yeah, the dashboard was different, but yeah, the system architecture was very similar, and that's why it's very easy to emulate or even play those games.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easier to transition them into what would be more that PC scenario that everyone kind of sees it as, where I think PlayStation struggles in that department, but they have strengths elsewhere. So maybe they have all these ambitions for the next gen, but it's hard for other people to embrace those ambitions, and that's why they're like, well, we're gonna make it so you can still do the PS4,
Mm-hmm.
because you think about how the end of the PS4 was. They were like, well, all these games have to be ready for the PS5, and now it's like they're backing off and backpedaling from that.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that I think you and I have talked about in the news a couple times about their emphasis on trying to really evolve. But I guess I'm going to kind of
Hmm.
continue on where you're talking about in the differences between Sony and Microsoft is that most of the actual like architecture anyway that Microsoft built on was almost your standard PC. Like I think the processor had to be something like IBM related, at least in the original Xbox. I don't know what the Xbox 360's processor was, although of course I know it was internally
Well,
built.
and you look back to the original creation of the Xbox, and a lot
Mm-hmm.
of those guys were playing at the time the Dreamcast, and the Dreamcast actually ran off of Windows CE architecture. So,
Mm-hmm.
and the Xbox, in a lot of ways, at least the original Xbox, was in a sense seen as a spiritual successor to the Dreamcast, or what it could have been, because it was they already had that Windows partnership, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that Windows had already been in the console arena, kind of, but
Kind of.
they just advanced off that architecture, and they built up past that.
Yeah,
So
and it's so I'm looking at it right now to try to figure out kind of like where things are going on at with Microsoft and how they've been able to handle what they're doing. They've been using. I just had to go look. I've got the Wikipedia article up here for the Xbox, the original Xbox, used a
mhm.
Pentium 3 processor. It was a custom made Pentium 3 processor to fit in their
Yeah.
in the Xbox and to do what they needed to do. But I think the fact that it's all built on DirectX. It used a processor that was in computers at that point in time.
Hmm.
A regular hard drive for storage purposes. It definitely kind of led the charge on basically putting a PC together as a game console specifically. And we saw more of that evolve as we went to the Xbox 360 and things carried on. Like, what was the processor on there? It was just called a X CPU. Let's
And you're
see.
looking at the 360 or
I,
the original
I
Xbox.
was looking at the original Xbox. Now I'm looking at the Xbox 360. So there's a CPU that they made. It's called the X CPU, codename Xenon, which is just weird because they actually have Xenon processors. Xeon processor. Sorry. It's based on an IP. This is the one I was thinking about actually. It's based on an IPM Power PC instruction set architecture, and so
Hmm.
it's 3 independent cores on a single die. Basically, it's a modified version of what was used on the PlayStation 3. Okay, so they went from using a desktop processor in one way or another to a custom
Right.
architecture to now what we're seeing with the Xbox One and its family and now the Xbox Series X and S, that it's
Hmm.
back to the PC level of things. So that would explain why backwards compatibility was a little weird on the Xbox 360 side when it came to the Xbox
Yeah.
One. But I will say, at least first and foremost, though, is that I think Microsoft over the years has really set themselves up that, they're not as worried about getting people onto these new consoles as fast as possible. They're not worried about the way they're doing it. They've leveraged Game Pass, the way you can play games on the current Xbox One now. The only
And
base
connect to people playing on their phone, connect to people playing on the Xbox One or the Xbox Series systems.
Exactly. And for even the people who have sideloaded the Game Pass app onto, like the new Google Chromecast with Android TV or Google TV, people have sideloaded that on there, connected a controller up to it, and been able to play Xbox games, just through that. At least it opens up the audience, even though that requires a little bit more work. But you can't really do a lot of that with Sony stuff, It's fascinating to really see how Sony has kind of one way or another maybe shot themselves in the foot a little bit with this, but I guess time will tell if the actual couple years that they need here to fully transition away from 4 to 5 is going to actually pay off, or if it's going to happen in that 3 years.
Yeah, but with the launch console shortages and stuff, and it being hard to get right now, maybe with the pandemic, that could be signs of maybe it's necessary.
So like, how long was it? Let's see. So the PlayStation 4. Let's see. Where's the Pro at? I'm just kind of trying to figure out exactly how long, or what the difference was in release between the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation 4. Because PlayStation 3 came out in North America on November 17th, 2006. And the PlayStation 4 came out on November 15th, 2013. So you're talking, what was that, 11 years? I think, if I saw that right. Let's see. I think that was right. 2006 to 2013. No, sorry. No, 11 years. 7 years. Sorry. So it was a 7-year gap between, and they stopped selling the PlayStation 3. Let's see, discontinued in America in 2016. So it only lasted. So literally, their time frame of how long it went on for. I mean, 2006 to 2016 is went on for a decade. But yeah, it took 3 years before they basically pulled the plug themselves. Is what they did. That's why they said the 3 years. Then is they pulled the plug and said, we're just not going to do it anymore. But probably had some sort of mandate out to their devs that said, all right, that's it. We're not approving any more PlayStation 3 games. You got to do just 4, and that's it. So it'll probably be the same with the 5. But it's going to be curious to see how Sony handles a lot of this over the next couple of years, to see if how well the devs are supported. And probably by that time, maybe we'll see a new like a PlayStation 5 Pro. Who knows what the next phase of things are going to be by that point in time. Or excuse me, it's Slim is what comes next. Sorry. So we'll see a PlayStation 5 Slim, and then we'll see the Pro. Yes. Which the Pro will probably be like, this wide by about like this tall. I mean, it'll fill up the entire screen here. So it'll just be obscenely big. Anyway, so we're going to move on here to our next story on the list. And this is one I'm actually excited for. And I love that this was only hidden away, because I only saw this like a couple days after the story dropped out. This story comes to us from Engadget. A new Mass Effect game is in development alongside a remastered trilogy. The rumors of more Mass Effect were true, and then some. BioWare has revealed that it is not only working on the long-expected remaster of the original trilogy, Mass Effect Legendary Edition, but that the next chapter of the Mass Effect universe, that is a new game, is in development. Legendary Edition will boast 4K resolution support, higher frame rates, and beautiful visual enhancements. The 3 games will include the single-player base material and DLC in addition to promo gear. The remaster is due in spring 2021 for PC, PS4, and Xbox One, and will offer targeted enhancements for the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. More news should be available early next year. As for the new game, BioWare was quick to warn the title was in the early stages, but that there would be a veteran team involved. It's safe to say the studio will have learned a few lessons from Mass Effect Andromeda's flawed execution, whether it was the technical issues or the lack of closure. The question, of course, is whether or not any future games can live up to the high expectations set by the first 3 entries in the sci-fi series. So we have a new Mass Effect coming down the line. We've got the remastered version coming out here. Excuse me, the Legendary Edition. And we were talking about this, Kyle, when the news broke on this one. Are you like you bought the games, but you haven't played them yet, right? The base level games,
Right.
right? Okay. Are
Yeah, I
you
still need to play them. And I think I bought them like
okay?
a year and a half ago or
Okay.
something. I had one, and for whatever reason, it wound up in a stack of games that I traded in, and it didn't even trade in for that much because I know it sold at GameStop for like $5 or something when I worked there.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, I had picked them up with the intention of playing through all of them and still haven't. So
Okay.
I don't know. It'd be really cool if this would come out and I can play it on, a next gen console or on PC. So
Yeah, that's something I'm looking forward to, especially like I'm curious to see how the enhancements look. Like I'm guessing they can only enhance as far as they can and say like Mass Effect 1 and
right.
2 and where 3 is going to kind of be like the end part, that was the better looking one anyway before Andromeda came out. But I'm just wondering though like if they're going to keep consistency on the enhancements all the way through so all the games look the exact same.
Unless
Um,
they've passed it off to another developer to basically rework it for new consoles.
that's very
That'd be
possible.
kind of cool too. So
That also is very possible. I'm just excited to see, especially in 4K HDR, what the Citadel's going to look like.
yeah,
Like when you fly, like not only when you're landing in there, but you're actually seeing the open spaces and such. I think that's going to be cool, especially on Mass Effect 3, because Mass Effect 3 wasn't just like static backgrounds. Like during the loading screens or anything. Like if you were going to the
hmm
Citadel, it actually showed a lot of the animation going on around the Citadel, ships going in and out and such as a part of the loading process. So I'm really excited to see what that's going to look like, especially if ray tracing ends up being supported on it too.
yeah,
That's what I'm just really excited to see how
that'd
that
be the
looks.
big thing I think. And
Hmm.
I think on because didn't that game use like Bloom off of like everything?
It was very heavy on it, so like especially if you're running around and trying to say like aim at an enemy where the sun is behind them and you're trying to aim down at
Yeah,
them, you're going to get hit by it. So it
I
gives a
so
lot of that J.J. Abrams type reflections in Bloom, hardcore.
I I don't know. I think a game like that would benefit from a more natural lighting.
Hmm.
Um, so I think it'd be really cool if they put the ray tracing into it.
It would be really neat, especially offer a um, I think especially offer a level of terror. I think and a little bit of suspense, especially as you're working through like the darker areas of the game.
Hmm
Um, when you come across your first set of enemies and it's a darker, almost nighttime type environment. You're like, I'm excited to see how that looks, especially if the ray tracing also carries over to the enemy character models because they've got a blue glow to them. So
hmm
I think once you see those, like once you actually see the Reapers and their and that blue glow, I think that's going to look really cool, especially if they're like walking around something you're seeing it just partially reflecting off of stuff. It's got me so excited. I'm ready for that game. So, or at least it's the remastered, especially. So, but good stuff coming down the line. Be sure to look out for that one here this next year. Now, let's carry on into our next story. Of course, what is a console launch week without some chaos? So, Kyle, talk to us about this story here from Polygon, and I can also attest to this with my Series X. Talking about Xbox Live going down on Xbox Series X launch day.
Players find they can't start new games on their new console.
Blech.
The Xbox Series X and Series S launched Tuesday, and Welp, a general outrage on Xbox Live this afternoon, left many with the new console unable to play its games. Microsoft's support team acknowledged the outage beginning at 1:01 p.m. Eastern Time and said they were working on it. With users unable to log into Xbox Live, some users are finding the consoles can't verify their ownership of the game and let them into it. The Washington Post, Gene Park reported he can't start Assassin's Creed Valhalla, for example. At publication time, Microsoft said it was seeing problems with, or in Xbox Live's core services, as well as in Destiny 2, which rolled out a huge patch for the Beyond Light expansion on Tuesday. Scanning the services to Xbox One and Xbox 360 both appeared to be fine, although some connected features were slow to load. Update just before 3 p.m. Eastern Time said it thinks it solved its problem. Users should be able to log in to live Xbox Live across all platforms, but if you can't, let them know.
Yep. So I can confirm
So,
I had my when I got my Xbox Series X there in the mail. It was well, it didn't come in. What was it? It was FedEx. So when it came in, I didn't get it set up immediately, but I was curious to go find out on the Xbox app and the Game Pass app what games were optimized for Series X and S to find out exactly like, okay, what can I download on here to actually see like, you know, the graphical quality enhancements of the new console. So as soon as I tried to load up the app on my phone, it was just I couldn't get anything. I just had like the background of the Xbox app and that was it. So by the time I got into actually set up my Xbox and turn it on and get it updated, it was well after this issue came up. But I will,
oh wow.
yeah. So the Xbox was able to download an update. It was able to download new firmware to my controller. It was able to reboot and come back up no problem. So I was able to get into everything, you know, pretty quick after this was done. Most of the actual issue I ran into on day one ended up actually being the installation of games. Those seemed to be a little slower. And as the days went on, I was able to actually get past that issue completely and was downloading games at like 100 to 150 megabits per second, no problem. So it was initial slowdown, but I really don't think that the Destiny 2 patch was helped any either because they were suffering just as much, whether it was on Xbox or on PC or anywhere else that there is Destiny 2. It suffered pretty hard.
Well, and you figure that volume of traffic between people trying to do updates and trying to get the downloads for Destiny,
Yeah.
you know, that's just a lot of traffic on the network. So
Exactly, and it's always been this way.
basically an unintentional DDoS attack.
That's exactly it, and that's how their mitigation stuff always works for it, though. Too, you know, it happens every time, whether it's Christmas or it's a new console launch. They've always got this. Like, how is it that they haven't like figured that out? And at the same time, why is it that they didn't work with with Bungie to say, hey, we're gonna have the console release this day. Can you give us like a 24-hour buffer to release this patch, or maybe do it the day before? You know, that would at least help alleviate some of the stress. At least I thought it would have.
Well,
But
even if they would have let people preload the patch, you know, before it were to go live, because I know some of the patch probably had to do with in-game items that, with the expansion coming out, you couldn't necessarily get, you could get without the expansion, but couldn't get without the patch. So for all those players to be affected by the patch, it would have to go out globally. So
yeah, it's
that's just a thought too. I don't know.
I don't.
That same day they did have a full expansion come out, which, you know, tied into that patch as well. So
No, absolutely. Why can't the console, like, why can't the console manufacturers, why can't they just like figure this out? Why can't they just do this and talk to their partners in the dev world and the publishing world to branch things out? I mean, I'm guessing the internet probably would have been a hellscape if both the PlayStation 5 and Series X and S dropped the same day. Like, I'm sure it probably would have been a hellscape for anybody's internet connection if you had both of those trying to download at the same time, like even in the same home. You'd be screwed.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah.
But even with that said, Xbox Live is resolved now. Of course, we're a few days in from having the Series X and S launch, so we're past it. I can at least confirm that. I was able to download a couple other games that ended up coming in pretty quick. So I can at least say that stuff is passed. But if you're still having issues, reach out to Microsoft and speak with them. Now, of course, we're not at the end of where the woes are at, especially with the new console. The Series X is actually presenting some issues that people are trying to sort out right now. So this story comes to us from Windows Central. Some Xbox Series X consoles are experiencing crashes when trying to load games, and it looks like since I read this article, they've actually got an update. The Xbox Series X recently launched, but some unlucky gamers aren't able to enjoy their new console. Several people have seen an issue that causes the Xbox Series X to crash when trying to load games. At this point, it's difficult to determine how widespread the issue is, but there is a growing Microsoft forum thread and a Reddit thread of people that see the issue. We've also received a number of reports across our own social media pages. So before we get to the actual update parts there, we'll read them at the bottom. This report here from someone on Twitter says, my Xbox Series X keeps shutting down 5 to 10 seconds into a game loading up. I've tried reinstalling the games and a full reset of the console, but nothing's working. So the original poster of the thread able chimp. So I guess that's probably off of Reddit. Others have echoed it running into the same issue. So this tweet here, of course, goes on to say the Xbox Series X refuses to load COD Warzone. It crashes the machine every time, and the controller resets. Just my luck to get a Duff Xbox at launch. Happens on other games too. One gamer, as No Guy Test, spoke with Windows Central about his new Xbox Series X. His console crashes when launching certain games, especially COD Warzone, according to No Guy Test. When the crash occurs, the front light of the console flickers and the Xbox Series X turns off. The crash turns his console off, but it leaves the controller on, requiring him to take out the batteries of the controller to reset it. The Xbox Series X has some other known issues, like this newly found crashing issue. It's difficult to know how widespread the problems are at this time, but they're at least affecting a noticeable number of gamers. So we can go back up here to the update statements. Okay, so update 1, quick resume was temporarily disabled for some titles. So Jason Ronald from Team Xbox stated that some optimized titles may experience issues with quick resume. As a result, Microsoft has temporarily disabled quick resume for some of those and is working on a fix. It's not confirmed if the crashing is related to such. And then update 2, some instances of the issue appear related to the Alpha Insider Ring. Some people who experienced the issue, including No Guy Test, fixed the problem by taking their consoles off the Xbox Alpha Insider Ring. While some instances of the issue appear to be related to being on the Insider Ring, some people seem to have the issue without being on such. So the Alpha Insider Ring, of course, is where you actually get to test new releases, whether they're new dashboards, new interfaces and such for the Xbox. I'm a part of the insider program for the Xbox One, but I'm not on my Series X right now. And to be perfectly honest with you, I'm glad I'm not. And of course, I have the picture on here. I know there's a little bit no explanation as to why with the smoke coming out, but I'm gonna preface this by saying if you've not seen the story on this, there's no Xbox Series X is catching fire right now. This picture here I thought was just a good illustration of the issues that are going on, but this is not a problem. There are people who are using their vape pens to basically just get in as much smoke as they can, and then they blow it into the bottom of the Series X, and then the fan, of course, picks it up and pushes it through the top. Microsoft has come out vehemently and said, don't blow smoke into your Xboxes, please.
Yeah, that not only it's just bad for the system components, whether it's smoke or vape smoke. Vape smoke is extremely wet, and wet does not mix with electronics.
No.
And then, of course, just regular smoking gobs up the internal component. It's really bad for your system.
Yeah,
causes it to die quicker.
A one-off instance is not going to do anything, but don't do it again, please, people. Just don't.
Yeah.
Alex, of course.
And it's pretty sad that Microsoft actually had to issue a statement for it. So
of course they did. I know, it was just silly. But Alex said here on Facebook, this is why I don't buy consoles at launch, and that's a mantra to live by. That's something that nobody can really fight you on there for sure. But that's just the thing, is that it's, there are people who do. I will say, I bought. Let's see. Out of every console that is released so far, where I've actually been able to pay for it myself, I have had the 3DS, the Switch Lite, so the Xbox Series X is my very first launch home console. Everything else has been well after the fact. So to be able to get a Series X at launch was kind of a big thing for me because it's something I've been looking forward to. But I understand it, and there's a lot of people who have said such. I think Kyle, you're the same way, that you're also waiting. I think it's also the fact that they've been rather unavailable, and you also want to build a PC.
Yeah.
I think Preston was the same way, that he's just waiting right now too. So I
Mhm.
get it. I understand. That's perfectly reasonable. In regards to actual
But there
issue,
there have been other bad things that have been happening with it too. Like people have had issues with the disk drive,
yep. So I was going
where
to get
it
into.
won't won't take up the disk, it won't eject the disk, makes lots of noise. And then even the Series S, when downloading a game, it makes a clicking noise.
Yeah, I heard about that one. That's
Yeah.
weird. I will at least bring up one issue I've had so far with the Series X itself, is that my disk drive, because the first game I wanted to put in was Modern Warfare, so I could finally start working through the campaign and actually try out Warzone on a console.
Hmm.
So I put the game in to do the install from the disk, and it was loud. It was actually like very noticeable. It made me think I was listening to like an old computer that I had back in like the um early to mid 2000s type disk drive. Like, I mean, it was loud. It was definitely going through. There wasn't any grinding necessarily. It just sounded like an old CD-ROM drive out of a computer,
Huh.
like a gateway, computer. It was that noisy, and that was it
Just really
actually.
bizarre.
On top of it, the only other things I've had, which might relate specifically to the quick resume function that they were talking about as being a problem in the article, um, I had some issues with the Modern Warfare campaign where the first couple cutscenes would lock up in one spot, and I couldn't hit the Xbox button to go back to the dashboard. I couldn't hit any buttons on the controller to actually see if I could just skip the cutscene. So I had to wait for about like 30 seconds, and then the cutscene just started back up again and kept going. But there was an audio sync issue where they were
Huh.
I think the mouths were moving ahead of the audio. So there was that, and then I had another cutscene that locked up on me, and the dialogue audio of the cutscene just completely disappeared. You heard all the background effects and such, but the rest of the audio had disappeared. But then after that point, I didn't have any other issues. Everything ran just as smooth as you would expect it to. So those were the two issues. But other than that, I just had to enable an HDR feature in my TV just to make sure it was set up right to actually handle HDR from the Series X, and that was it. Otherwise, it's been smooth sailing. Um,
Hmm.
Maybe I need to do a review on the new console. Need to make a video
Maybe.
or something, huh?
Yeah.
Oh God, when I can find the time, okay? When I can find the time. But yeah, if you're having issues with these, especially being launch ones, just you've got to reach out to Microsoft. You've got the warranty on stuff, of course. If it is hardware related, you've got the standard 1 year manufacturer warranty anyway to get it addressed. So reach out and find out what it is you can do to address it. But we move on to our next story here, from GameSpot, and this one is probably going to be the one to actually interest you guys the most. But this is an interesting one though in regards to how Sony's actually handling the restocking of the PlayStation 5 in general. So, Kyle, the paragraph in particular to focus on as a part of this is towards the middle in regards to Black Friday 2020. So, just you'll need to start over there, dude.
uh, I see. I think. Yeah. You want me to read that?
Yeah.
Um, the PS5 will be back in stock on Black Friday 2020. If you didn't manage to buy the PS5 at launch, don't give up hope just yet. It's likely many stores are holding back stock for Black Friday, and some retailers have even confirmed Black Friday availability. GameStop is one of those stores. The games retailer will have in store only PS5 stock on Black Friday. All stores will have a minimum of two PS5 units available when they open at 7 a.m. local time on November 27th. Don't expect them to have much more than that, though. We suggest calling your local store ahead of time to ask the Black Friday PS5 availability. We've also reached out to GameStop and PS5 digital availability on Black Friday, and we'll report back. Um, Looks like Walmart will also have the PS5 in stock online only on Black Friday, though it hasn't shared an exact time for the restock yet. If this week is anything to go by, it's like Walmart will share exactly when you'll be able to buy the PS5 on Black Friday when the day gets closer. Walmart's Black Friday ad is broken into three main parts, and the third part, which contains its main Black Friday deals and gaming offers, hasn't been released yet. It should hopefully shed light on Walmart's Black Friday PS5 restock plan. PlayStation Direct had a queue going on its site earlier the day of release, but all PS5 units has sold out as of Friday evening. The page says check back 11:14 for availability. So it looks as though more PS5 stock may be available on Saturday. Best Buy has confirmed it will not have any PS5 units in store throughout the entire holiday season, so you won't see the PS5 in any Best Buy brick and mortar store until 2021. Though the PS5 appears in Best Buy's Black Friday ad, the retailer would not confirm Black Friday availability to GameStop or GameSpot, and said the stock will be available on BestBuy.com when they get more units. Of course, you can always find the PS5 and the accessories on retailer sites like StockX and eBay, but you'll likely pay hundreds above MSRP for the console. For context, resale prices on StockX are currently between $800 and $900. Though you can place bids to buy the console for less, the site has plenty of stock. So if you're desperate, it's worth checking out to see if you can negotiate a decent price.
It's like so part of the thing there is kind of referencing on that is the fact that the PlayStation 5 launched yesterday, and that basically every retailer will not carry stock until Black Friday. So if you wanted one of these, if you wanted a PlayStation 5 or the all digital edition, you got to wait 2 more weeks technically. And it's even the same, even though PlayStation Direct here says that they're going to be carrying them tomorrow, they're going to be gone quick.
See, and really and truly, I had heard rumor that it sounds like each of the brick and mortar shops are going to get roughly 2 of each console. And that actually does, include the Xbox units as well. So they'll probably have 2 Xbox One X's, 2 Xbox Series X's, 2 Xbox Series S's, 2 PlayStation 5 all digitals, and 2 regular PlayStation 5s. Beyond that, I think honestly, GameStop, they say they're going to have a lot of availability, but let's be real. How many of those are going to be their shitty bundles? Yeah, some of the stuff you were going to buy anyway. You were going to buy Spider-Man. You may have wanted to buy a headset, maybe a camera, maybe Dark Souls, but all together on that one purchase, it hits heavy, and you could get a couple items you don't want. And I guarantee you, a lot of those PlayStations are going to go that way, because that's how GameStop makes money. Is they have to bundle those items. They have to get the add-ons. I mean, when you look back at even when they were pre-ordering, their pre-order goal was like 7 items for an attach. And that was obscene. Actually, yeah. So you're looking at like what, an extra controller, a headset, 2 games, the PlayStation Plus. That it starts getting, just ridiculous at a point.
Yeah, it's just obscene.
I've heard, however, if you go to the PlayStation Direct, when they're available through them, when you join the queue, You basically sit in this nice queue, and it's just a loading screen. Then when your queue time is up, it loads you into the store, and you basically get to roam the store, get the stuff you need, and then check out without any hassle. So there's no like fussing with loading browsers or fussing with your cart to try and get it to load to fight other people, because they're only letting so many IPs actually in at a time.
No, and that's fair, and I'm sure you probably can't sit there for too long anyway. But like I'm
Yeah.
looking here at the people who have actually gotten PS5s, like they've actually got them in hand, whether it's the digital edition or the disc edition. Here on eBay, I've got one. Oh, hi Charlie. I got one going for $1,400. Buy it now. I got one. I got one here where this guy actually has a picture of 5 of them. $1,950 each for disc editions.
See, and that's just obscene.
Yeah, it's awful. Like here's one where this person's selling a bundle of the disc edition with Miles Morales and a extra controller for $1,250.
Wow.
There's another one here where this person has one of the cameras and what appears to be two, three, four, five, one camera, 5 additional DualSense controllers, and 6 disc editions of the PlayStation 5s, selling them each for $1,350.
Wow.
Yeah, and of course, you sort by like the price plus shipping highest first. I'm ignoring this top one here because I think that's stupid. This one here is $25,000.
Jesus Christ.
No one's paying this. No one's going to be paying this.
Yeah.
Like seriously, like if I go to price like low to high right now, here's one right now. Okay, here's one that's not necessarily the end of the world. $749 for a digital edition, brand new, to ship.
Dang.
And that one, it looks like it's actually a picture of it, but you got a couple of people who are selling them where they've just got stock images. Like here's one. Here's a digital edition for $889, but it doesn't come with anything else. So it's definitely one of those things that you've got the scalpers running their mouths on crap and doing their thing. I don't know. Hopefully they can get past the botting issue. With whatever this next one is, put in a CAPTCHA, put in a check to make sure you're real. But if they don't learn their lessons on these, how are we going to get past any of it? That's just me. I don't know. Anyway,
No, I have the very same sentiment actually. So
exactly.
I think really and truly the way to go, like I said, through the PlayStation Store, join the queue, wait in their little queue, and just get what you need from the store without any hassle, without having to fight the cart. I wish Xbox or at least Microsoft, on their storefront had something very similar. That
And they
would be
could have
nice.
done, like, you think it's Microsoft. They should have been able to do
Yeah.
something.
You'd think they'd be the first ones to do it.
You really would think so. But in all the doom and gloom that is purchasing brand new consoles, let's talk about a slightly older console here. And shockingly, its success. Oh, actually, no, not even. No shock here in its success because it's definitely well deserved. This story comes to us from IGN. Nintendo Switch is the best-selling console for almost 2 years straight. In a year full of PS5 and Series X talk, Nintendo quietly dominates. It's hard to overstate just what an incredible year Nintendo is having with the Nintendo Switch. The Kyoto-based company has reported its strongest October sales yet for the console after announcing more than 735,000 Switch and Switch Lites sold. This is a 136% increase year over year. According to the NPD, Nintendo has achieved the second highest October sales of any video game console in history, second only to the Wii in October 2008. In a year where 2 new consoles from Xbox and PlayStation just debuted, Nintendo has recorded the best-selling video game console for 23 straight months. Nintendo Switch and Switch Lite continue to provide one-of-a-kind gaming experiences on the TV or on the go, allowing holiday shoppers the choice of a video game system that matches their lifestyle, Nintendo of America President Doug Bowser said in a statement. The strength of the Nintendo Switch, especially in 2020, has allowed the company to raise its profit forecast from 300 billion yen to 450 billion yen, a 50% increase. The Switch has surpassed the lifetime sales of the NES, and there's no indication that these numbers will slow over the holidays. Seeing encouraging sales growth like this in the fourth October of Nintendo Switch proves to us that the system has many more years and great games to come. The Switch hardware has been buoyed by a killer app released earlier this year you might recognize, Animal Crossing New Horizons, which has now sold 26.04 million copies in just 6 months. Amazon Crossing New Horizons is now the second best-selling Switch game, only behind Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Amidst rumors that Nintendo is considering a upgraded Switch model sometime in the future, the company fortunes with the current Switch and the Switch Lite appear to be just fine. A more in-depth analysis will be provided when NPD releases their October 2020 report Friday morning. So I have not actually seen the NPD's report on this, but it's I guess it's not a shock that the Switch is actually doing as well as it is. Consistent like quality games coming out. We just had the Nintendo 35th anniversary. We've got Animal Crossing seasons still going on like crazy too. We've got other things that are still coming down the line for the Switch as well. It's the thing to have. And it's doing I'm glad that it's still doing very well, that they don't have to consider doing an upgrade yet, but that time is coming. That time is coming that we're going to have to see some sort of next phase of things for the Switch, whether it's going to be a Switch Pro, whether it's going to be a dock that actually expands the capability to, say, possibly 4K. Don't know. But it's coming though, and whether or not that happens next year is up in the air, especially if the Switch is doing so well. But Nintendo's not one to shy away from what they've been doing so well on to do the next greatest thing. But it's interesting. I don't know what to really say next on that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but good on you, Nintendo, of course, though. Keep it up, because Switch and Switch Lite are still on-point consoles, for sure. Although, now that I got the Series X, I don't know if I'm going to be touching my Switch Lite much more for at least a little while. I guess we'll just have to see. But Kyle, round us out here for the evening with our last story from Gama Sutra here, talking about EA and another lawsuit.
Soon as it loads. Sorry, I don't know what my computer...
It's not just you. Gama Sutra took forever for me to load too. Like, it took a while.
Okay.
Wasn't just you. Or maybe it could be your computer. I don't know.
Could be. My internet over here is shit, so...
Pedal faster, Kyle. Pedal faster.
No doubt. There we go.
Yay!
Okay. So, class action lawsuit accuses EA of changing game difficulty to push loot boxes. Electronic Arts has been accused of using dynamic difficulty adjustment to quietly adjust the difficulty of certain EA sports games in a way that purposely pressures players into purchasing more loot boxes. According to a class action lawsuit spotted by Game Industry, a number of individuals are concerned that the year's worth of games in the Madden, NFL, FIFA, and NHL series are using AI to adjust each game's difficulty on the sly. EA's undisclosed use of difficulty adjusting mechanisms deprives gamers who purchase player packs of the benefit of the bargains, because EA's difficulty adjusting mechanism, rather than only the stated ranked of the gamers, ultimate team players, and the game's relative skill dictates, or at least highly influences, the outcome of the match, reads a selection from the lawsuit. The following goes on to say that using dynamic difficulty adjustment in titles like EA Sports games can alter the effectiveness of the players' team rosters, which is particularly problematic given that players can turn to loot boxes to try and unlock more powerful players for their own teams. This is a self-perpetuating cycle that benefits EA to a detriment of EA Sports gamers, since difficulty adjusting mechanisms make gamers believe their teams are less skilled than they actually are, leading to them to purchase additional player packs in hopes of receiving better players and being more competitive. The technology isn't something exclusive to EA, but the developer's particular flavor of dynamic difficulty adjustment has landed in hot water previously after patents describing its DDA technology made the rounds last year. At the time, EA told Eurogamer it did not use dynamic difficulty adjustment in FIFA.
Yeah, and there's actually a small quote from EA here somewhere that I actually need to look at. I think it's from the actual games industry article, and it said, let's see, it was just a simple one. All the comment that they added is they said, "We believe the claims are baseless and misrepresent our games, and we will defend." That's it. So what you're talking about then specifically is that, well, this doesn't shock me for an EA side of things. I mean, they're like, for them to be able to sneak in there, because you could make just a small adjustment, a small tweak of some type, and if it makes that change, unaware to the player itself, then and forces you to do it, yeah, that's pretty illegal. I mean, it's like, oh, I don't know how I'd want to describe it. I think it's like the same issue that Apple got itself into, where it was throttling the battery charging capabilities of the older iPhones as the new one came out. And that it was basically like, well, if you want better battery life, you're going to have to upgrade to the new iPhone. Or if you want the better speed, you're going to have to go to the new iPhone, because they were finding such. And I think Apple landed themselves in hot water for that. So I don't see this as being different. And EA is probably going to suffer the same fate just as Apple did on that one, which I think Apple had a class action against it for such. Because it went back a long time, especially for what they, like, I think for the amount of iPhones, because it went back, I think, as far as iPhone 4S, and it was discovered, I think, in iPhone 8's iOS version that it was doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Shame on you, EA. Shame on you. Even though once this is done, I'm going to go play Titanfall through EA Play on my Series X. So, shame on you, but I'm still going to play your games. But I don't really think there's much else to say on it. EA's kind of scummy, so.
Yeah, they have been. I mean, even in you think about their court case, when they were actually discussing the loot boxes, they called it surprise mechanics, for Christ's sakes. What the hell is surprise mechanics? It's gambling.
Yeah, and the EU is doing so much to regulate a lot of that right now. I'm sure we'll see more of it here in the United States as time goes on too, but it's getting to be pretty blatant. They're trying their best to hide it behind code words, but it's pretty blatant a lot of the things they're doing. I mean, Battlefront 2 should have been enough of an indication for everybody exactly like, how EA acts. But here we are, another series of games that's kind of getting thrown out there as being problem ones.
Yeah.
But that is everything we have, of course, in the weekly news roundup for you guys, of course, for November 13th, 2020. Thanks, of course, for joining us and sticking around as we're going through everything here. We always love doing this every week, so we also appreciate it when you tune in and you're commenting along with us. You're telling us how you feel about these news stories as well. You're providing some additional insights that maybe Kyle and I don't think about. But it's always a great time for us to be able to go through the news and kind of talk about these things, especially as they bug the hell out of us. But Kyle,
oh yeah,
thanks for joining me, as always, through Discord, man. I know it's fun, of course, especially with your computer. Get that new computer built, damn it.
Absolutely. I'm doing my best. It's looking further and further out, though. The whole video card fiasco is holding me up.
I understand. I completely understand. I don't need to upgrade my video card anytime soon, but I totally agree. I totally do. But anyway, of course, folks, thank you again for tuning in. Check out our podcast, new episode up talking about top video game twists, very spoiler heavy podcast as well there. Kyle actually throws us a nice unique twist there going in towards the end of the actual episode itself, so be sure to listen out and check that one out for us, anchor.fm/the-npcs-podcast. Of course, you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you're watching us on Facebook, make sure to hit that like button on our Facebook page so you know, of course, when we post new things as well. And with that, we will catch all of you guys later.
Bye.